Kia ora. What about a weak acid, strong base titration? So if I choose methyl orange and I start, notice that the red color becomes a sort of an orangey color for a long time, and then it turns yellow even before we reach the equivalence point. So this is not a suitable indicator because the color change is so vague and it changes completely before we're even anywhere near the equivalence point. So what about with bromothymol blue? Notice also with a weak acid, it's a sort of sudden up jump and then it goes flat before it hits the steep part. Remember, the equivalence point is halfway along that steep part, so it would be around about here. This is okay, but not the best because you would be out by perhaps a drop or two to the true equivalence point. And we can reset with the phenolphthalein, and notice again we've got that quick jump up before it starts leveling out until it reaches the steep part of the graph. And notice here that midway in the steep part is about the same as the color change. So the endpoint and the equivalence point are more or less the same. So phenolphthalein is the best one to use. And we can do the same thing with a strong base, what we want, a strong base weak acid, which is the opposite. So if we go methyl orange, notice it stays yellow for a long time. Again, because we're starting with the strong base, it's that gentle curve, no sudden change like in the weak. And then we get this, but now the pH levels off a lot more quickly because we've got a weak acid. And notice the end point does not match the equivalence point. And I can do the same with bromothymol blue. And I think you can get the idea. As it goes down, it stays blue, and it did more or less change at the same time, but not quite. The equivalence point would be about here, endpoints about there. And finally, with phenolphthalein, you can see again, there's your strong base with a gentle slope down, and then the steep cliff. And notice that the color change went from pink to colorless at the equivalence point area. And notice that the pH of the weak acid is a higher pH. So of these three, for a strong base weak acid or weak acid strong base, phenolphthalein is the best indicator. Kia ora.